Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler. Welcome to a special video here this afternoon. I am going to cover the latest Teleconnections update, and this is for the 7th of November 2025. This will not be my full Teleconnections discussion, but this is more of just a end of the week type wrap up on how the Teleconnections are looking as we move forward here through November. We're going to start off and take a look at the Arctic Oscillation first and follow this green, any of these teleconnection maps or charts, just follow the green line. That is the actual average of all the ensemble forecast members for the model. So we're starting with the European EPS AO forecast using 50 perturbed members. This forecast is out through 22 November. And look at the solid green line here. We remain in negative territory for the AO right on through all the way to the end of this particular time period, the 22nd of November. So basically we're talking about 2 weeks, according to this model, the EPS AO 50 perturbed member forecast model, negative AO. The European EPS AO 50 perturbed member 46-day forecast is just updated overnight. Green solid line is the average of all the 50 ensemble members here. And you clearly see we have a negative, and then we get up closer to neutral around 11 December. 11 to 16 December, the Arctic Oscillation goes from negative to near neutral, just for that brief period, and then slightly negative again. So for much of the month of November, this model is forecasting the AO to remain negative. We look at the NOAA-JEFS V12 AO 30 perturbed members on this particular ensemble system. Now this forecast goes out to 23 November, and we see this green solid line, the average of all the ensemble forecast members, showing a negative phase of the Arctic Oscillation all the way up until about the 22nd, 23rd of November. So a negative AO is being forecasted by the regular EPS 50 perturbed member model. The EPS AO 50 perturbed member longer range 46-day forecast model, as well as the NOAA-JEFS V12. We look at the NAO North Atlantic Oscillation forecast. Look at the green solid line here. Again, it's the average of the ensemble members of this forecasting modeling system. We see a negative phase of the NAO all the way through 22 November, according to the EPS NAO forecast. The EPS NAO 50 perturbed member forecast 46-day outlook. We have a negative NAO up until about 26 November, where it briefly touches the zero line and goes neutral. And then we go back negative again with the NAO all the way to about 11 December. And similar to the AO, it's forecasting a neutral NAO from 11 to 16 December, then slightly negative again. Looking at the NOAA-JEFS V12 NAO 30 perturbed member forecast out through 23 November, follow the solid green line, the average of all these 30 model members here in the ensemble system. It is showing a negative phase of the NAO all the way up until the 23rd of November. Looking at the Eastern Pacific Oscillation EPO forecast, now we're going to the Pacific side teleconnections. If you want an explainer, a more detailed look as to what negative and positive phases of these teleconnections, what they mean for our weather in the United States, feel free to look at my latest Teleconnections discussion video that I just released earlier this week, and I give you the breakdown there. But in general, what we got going on with the European EPS EPO 50 perturbed member forecast out through 22 November, we have a positive EPO today on the 7th of November. It transitions to negative between 8 and 10 November. Then it goes slightly positive the 10th to about the 12th of November. Then back negative from 12 to about 14 November, and then positive again, back down closer to neutral, positive, back down to neutral. We look at the European EPS, EPO 50 perturbed member 46-day forecast out to 21 December. You see we have a positive phase of the EPO today, dropping negative briefly, and then going back positive, back down negative, back positive. A lot of ups and downs in the EPO, right? Slightly negative and slightly positive back and forth through about 21 November. And then after about the 23rd, 24th of November, this model is forecasting a negative EPO all the way through the 11th of December. Here is the NOAA-JEFS V12 EPO 30 perturbed member forecast showing a positive phase of the EPO today on the 7th of November, going briefly negative 8 to 10 November, slightly positive 10 and 11 November, back down to negative 11 to 13, actually 11 to 14 November. We have a negative phase of the EPO, then positive again after that, neutral, and then kind of riding that neutral, slightly positive line through the 23rd of November. Looking at the Pacific North American, the PNA pattern, the European EPS PNA 50 perturb member forecast out to 22 November, showing a slightly positive phase. You notice the values are positive here, slightly positive phase of the PNA. And then it gets a little more strongly positive here between the 9th and about the 11th of November. And that is an association with that deep trough that's really going to come into the eastern U.S. and bring quite the cool down, well below normal temperatures in the east, well above normal temperatures in the west, associated with this positive PNA period. And then we go back to slightly negative PNA right on through 18 November, remaining slightly negative right on through the 22nd of November. European EPS PNA 50 perturb member forecast showing a slightly positive PNA today, and then it's going to work its way even more positive here between 9 and 11 November, and then dropping more negative from 11 to 21 November, and then slightly negative through 6 December to neutral, and then back to slightly negative. Looking at the NOAA Jeffs V12 PNA 30 perturb member forecast out to 23 November, you clearly see this rising PNA here, right? The value on the positive side. So a much more amplified upper level ridge into the western U.S. as well as western Canada with a positive PNA. And then we get closer to neutral values on the 12th, 13th, and 14th of November. Then we go slightly negative through 23 November. Looking at the update on the Madden-Julian Oscillation MJO forecast, wherever you see the red and blue line, that indicates where we're heading with the MJO, the Madden-Julian Oscillation. Black line kind of shows you where we've been. Each of these numbers next to these lines indicate the day of the month. So we kind of look at the pattern of what the MJO did in the month of October here on the left. This left graphic here where I have the red dot, that is how it's rotated in the month of October. And now the red line indicates kind of like where we're at now, the 7th of November. We're heading into phase 6. We remain in phase 6 through 21 November, according to the latest Jeffs V12 forecast for the MJO. On the middle diagram here, I'm showing the CFS V2 model MJO forecast. We're well within phase 5 on the CFS V2. We're heading towards phase 6 between the 8th and the 14th of November. And then we go into phase 7 before going into the small inner circle at the center of the diagram here in the middle. That's associated with the null phase by the 6th of December. And then over here on the right, the European forecast showing in the red line where we're currently at the 7th of November into phase 6. We work our way, remain in phase 6 through about 13 November, and then the blue line shows the forecast from 13th to the 16th of November into phase 7 before we rotate back into the null phase. Now, anytime with the MJO phase diagram, we're in the phases 6 and 7 where we have convection, rising air motion in the tropical western Pacific. That is going to indicate generally a milder temperature trend for the mid-Atlantic states. And you clearly see on all these forecast models, we're generally operating in phase 6. Some of the modeling has us going into phase 7, right into the null phase after that. But phases 6 and 7 they indicate milder temperatures for the mid-Atlantic. We look at the latest stratospheric polar vortex update. Now this forecast I'm showing you is for the 15th of November. The solid white lines represents lines of geopotential heights. And so what I like to look at here, blue colors on this graphic on the right indicate colder stratospheric temperatures. Yellow colors indicate warmer stratospheric temperatures. Whenever these white solid lines, these geopotential height lines become more elongated, that indicates we have a weaker stratospheric polar vortex. And also the stretching out or elongation of these white solid height lines indicates more of a stretched out polar vortex. So as you can see, we got warming temperatures in the yellow colors, generally over, it looks to me like it's over in the Arctic area, there over the North Pole, that area, and you see colder temperatures right directly beneath where the stratospheric polar vortex is currently located. So you see these white solid lines, how they become more elongated, stretched out like a rubber band. and they kind of work their way down into eastern portions of North America for middle November. This is where I'm potentially seeing a stretching event of the polar vortex. Whenever you get stretching events into eastern North America, that generally results in colder temperatures east of the Rocky Mountains. So we'll have to keep watching this trend. Here is the latest sea surface temperature anomalies from the NOAA Coral Reef product. Oranges and yellows indicate above normal water temperatures. I'm really focused here on the North Pacific Ocean. Of course, the weather moving west to east, so these sea surface temperature anomalies do make a difference in shaping the upper air patterns and where the jet stream and the storm track set up. You see blue colors indicates below normal temperatures right now in the Gulf of Alaska, below normal temperatures there just to west of the Kamchatka Peninsula. We do see above normal temperatures in the north central Pacific as well as the northwestern Pacific into the Sea of Japan and down towards Taiwan area there. We do see below normal temperature readings associated with the La Nina that's currently in place across the central portions of the tropical Pacific Ocean. Also, we have a negative Indian Ocean dipole with the lighter blue colors here, generally located west of India. And then on the North Atlantic side, we see above normal temperatures across the North Atlantic Ocean, and that's in association with a positive Atlantic multidecadal oscillation. Now, if you look at this sea surface temperature anomaly plot here on the right, this is from December of 2000, and I still am going strong with the winter of 2001 winter analog for our upcoming winter. Look at the similarities again, where we're at. 6 November here on the left, and then December of 2000 on the right. You see the below normal temperature anomalies associated with La Nina in both graphics on the left and right. You see above normal water temperatures generally to the northwest of the Hawaiian Islands in both. You do see warming across the western tropical Pacific and the northwestern Pacific in both. And one difference I do see is in December 2000, you had warmer temperatures. You had a little tongue of warmer water up into the Gulf of Alaska here on the right. Vice right now, we still see, general blue, cooler than normal water temperatures in that Gulf of Alaska. So there's a lot of similarities here between November 2025 on the left, as well as December of 2000 on the right. There's a lot of similarities in these water temperature anomalies across the North Pacific, in my opinion. We're going to see how this changes through the month of November, and I'm going to come back to this and show you as we move along in the month how things look. Do they still look comparable by the time we get to December of this year to December of 2000? We'll take a look at that as we get closer. So the bottom line here from today's Teleconnections update video, we are going to see a persistently negative phase of the AO, the Arctic Oscillation, and the North Atlantic Oscillation, the NAO. Right on through the 22nd of November, the next 2 weeks, we really don't see much change in the modeling to this negative phase. Now, why do we care about a negative phase of the AO and NAO? Because when we have those negative AO and NAO phases, they favor continued upper level troughing and colder than normal temps across the eastern United States. And so, and I did show you my daily forecast video here earlier today. You clearly see that troughing there from the northwestern Atlantic down the eastern seaboard, and I really believe that is south of the anomalously higher than normal heights with the negative NAO across Greenland and over the far northern areas north of North America. So overall, this negative phase, the AO and NAO, favor troughing in the colder temperatures than normal across the east. Now the PNA is slightly negative. It's forecasted to become positive for a period here between the 10th and the 12th of November. That's when we get that really cold shot and that very deep trough in the eastern U.S. But then it goes slightly negative after the 12th of November. What does that mean? When we have a PNA that's just slightly negative, that favors only weaker troughing across the western U.S., not very deep troughing. So what does this mean? That means that, we're not really going to see a huge upper level ridge building downstream from the troughing along the western U.S. And that's really what it means. Now, the Eastern Pacific Oscillation, the EPO, I've watched this the last 3 days, and it seems to me like it's trending more negative with the modeling. The more negative the EPO goes, the colder the temperatures are going to be into the United States in late November. So we'll continue to watch that closely. The MJO is rotating into milder phases 6 and potentially phase 7 here over the next 5 to 10 days. Now that's interesting because MJO in phase 6 and 7 favors milder temperatures for the mid-Atlantic. However, will this more persistent negative AO, NAO, will we see that stretched or weakened stratospheric polar vortex? And then will we see a negative EPO take hold? Will those teleconnections combined overpower the MJO in the milder phases? Again, that's what I'm curious to watch, to see how these other teleconnections favor, troughing and colder temps in the east, the EPO being negative, the weakened and stretched stratospheric polar vortex, and the negative AO, NAO. Will they overpower the milder phases of the MJO? We're going to have to wait and see. And again, meanwhile, the update on the stratospheric polar vortex, as I showed you in this video, it may be weakening and stretched out around middle November, and it's something I continue to watch. So let's just keep an eye on that. All right, that wraps up my special video. I just wanted to give you, before the weekend kicked off, a quick update on the teleconnections. It's not my full discussion, which, I'll do another full teleconnections discussion next week. That's all I got for now, everybody. Until next time, take care and God bless everyone.